Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to the Ask Denis episode, which is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders across the globe. And Tim, I really want to give you a very warm welcome to this episode. We've just released episode 50, and it's been a tremendous celebration as we do that, whereby within not even 4 months, we've gone and done 50 episodes here on the Leadership is Changing show podcast. So today's session is really about celebrating your accomplishments, and I'll take you through that very soon. But one thing I want to remind our listeners is that the Leadership is Changing Facebook group is available for you now to join. It is a community whereby we get together and we can talk about leadership, leading, change, and leading that change, of course, in this disruptive world that we live in today. So team, feel free to go ahead and check that out on Facebook. That is the Leadership is Changing Facebook group that is available for you to join now. So episode 50 was released this week, and it was just fantastic to see it happen. You know, we launched the podcast about about four months ago, and it was just wonderful to see. And to be able to set that goal, then get on with it and put action in place and actually make it happen and start it to turn around and actually start to see every week 3 episodes, 2 episodes where I've interviewed guests, and then another episode like this one called the Ask Denis, which is a freestyle episode. First of all, I want to say to our listeners, hey, thank you so much for listening and downloading the episodes. And I encourage you to continue to do that and also share with your network. Get them to download it, put a review and a rating and some comments there because that really helps the whole show actually rank really well too, which has been ranking fantastically over those 4 months as well. Also like to thank my guests that I've had on the show and interviewed them, and it's been really quite cool to see different people we've had on the show. You know, the first episode was Christopher Luxon, who was the ex-CEO of Air New Zealand, which is what was wonderful to have him on the first episode. And then, you know, we had Travis Chappell, somebody who's been mentoring me in relation to the podcast and so forth, and just wonderful to have him on board and be a guest, right through to people like Dr. Vince Molinaro and Tracy Ibarra, Tracy, an executive in Dell Technologies, right through to other people that I've had too, which, you know, Paul Martinelli, John Lee Dumas, right? So these are people who are been part of my life, who have mentored me, but are out there very successful in business themselves and doing very well in various roles or businesses or entrepreneurship, whatever they're doing. And then episode 50, having my friend Adrian Stevens with me to do episode 50 was a wonderful experience, and him and I recording that one. And of course, that has gone live too. Hey, big thank you also to the support team. to the team, the production team, to Travis for the mentoring, to the production team, as I said, and to the design team, Oyo, who's helped me, and of course to Mary, my partner, who's really helped me a lot and always been there, the rock and support, and helping me pull things together as well. So a big thank you to you, to Mary. Alrighty, team, let's talk about celebrating your accomplishments. So actually, that's what I've just done. I've just done some accomplishments and some acknowledgements based on the success of the podcast to date, based on what we've actually achieved so far to date, which is wonderful. And so I'm going to be talking about the importance of celebrating your accomplishments, because what actually happens here is that people set goals. Now, for a lot of people, they don't actually set goals very well. There's a whole group of people who don't even set a goal. Now, there's others who set goals, but they don't write them down. And then there's another group that set goals, write them down, and then they go out there and they achieve them. And it's the goal achieving that's really quite important, and I'm sure that I'll be talking to you about that some other time. But what I want to talk to you about is we all get too busy, and we're all very busy in our businesses or in our roles, or our teams are very busy, and we've set goals, and we do tick things off. We do accomplish things. We do get things done, but do we take time out to celebrate? And the sad thing is that most people don't. Most leaders don't take time out to celebrate with their team members and their teams based on projects, initiatives, and so forth being achieved. For a lot of them, they just get on with the next thing, get on with the next initiative, project, whatever that is. They just get on with it. Why? Because they're so busy. And the world has been moving so fast, they just need to stay ahead of the curve, and they don't want to take time out to celebrate. Now, when I say they don't want to, they probably do want to do the celebration, but they don't know if they can afford the time out to celebrate. For some organizations, it's quite interesting to see. Oh, we don't actually have budget to celebrate. Now, every time I ask leaders like that about that question around the world, how much does it cost you to recognize somebody or celebrate some achievements of that? The answer always comes back, nothing. It doesn't cost us. You see, you can turn around and do a thank you, an acknowledgement. And it could be in a team meeting, it could be in person, it could be at a function, whatever it is. It doesn't cost your team. But the impact that it has is massive on that person, massive on that team. And so if you can take time out to celebrate, but be deliberate in what you're doing in relation to celebrating some accomplishments and success, then that's really, really important. Now, I'll give you a great example. For a company that I work for, what we did is we found that leaders were complaining the fact that they didn't actually have budgets, they didn't actually have money to actually recognize people or do anything like that. And then, on the other hand, we were asking people to step up and do a whole lot of things and initiatives and projects and go the extra mile, but we didn't really have the funding to celebrate their accomplishments. So the organization said, sure, what we'll do is we'll give you, as a leader of your team, a budget every 6 months, and you need to use that budget. So what they did is they actually went and set up a whole system of recognition whereby you got so many points as part of your recognition, and then those points would accumulate, and then you could go onto a website that the organization had organized, and you could purchase things like a new headset, right through to barbecues, right through to TVs and things like that, computers. It depended on how many points you had, right, which was depending on what you could actually get. But what we found is that if we take the 6-month period, the leader actually got a budget based on the number of people in their organization. So I'm just going to use an example. So if somebody had a team of 10 people, then they had a budget for that 10 people. And what we found was about the last 3 weeks of that 6 months, 95% of people still hadn't even used their budgets. Now, these are the same people that were complaining about that we actually weren't giving them a budget, right? So they hadn't even used it. So then they got given reminders. So we had to prompt the leaders to go out there and recognize people. That's never a good look, because leaders should be doing that part of their job anyhow. So as they were prompted to do this, then what you found, especially in the last week, people's inboxes were flooded with recognition. And as they were flooded with recognition, how do you think that came across to the employees? Even I got recognition. I got points. I got emails from some people. And for some of it, I felt it was really worth, they should have come through to me, which was great. And other people should have got points, which was really, they deserved it. But there was times whereby I got points and others got points, and it was just to use up the points. It came across as not being authentic. It came across as being sort of a bit false. So the warning here is, whatever you do, team, make sure it is authentic. Make sure you're doing it, and you're doing it in a way that's respectful to others, but also others are going to really have an impact, but a great sort of success story or a great experience in what you're actually doing to help celebrate them. Now, for a lot of them is that every 6 months, then they got a new budget, right? And so we found this every 6 months, and it was hard. And it's not difficult to give people recognition to do certain things. And a lot of people just don't want the money or a gift and things like that. They just want to be just told, thank you, recognized, well done for what you've done. And I think that's really important. The thing here I want to talk to you about is you as an individual. Do you celebrate your accomplishments and that? Because you see, it's easy to go and celebrate with others, even though I said that a lot of people don't do it. And they will go and celebrate other people's success or achievements and so forth. But do you do it for yourself? So what do I mean by this? Well, with a lot of people that I work with is that I get them to start thinking about their goals, and we set those goals. But the one thing that I start to get them to think about as part of their action plan to actually go ahead and pull that goal together and succeed at it and achieve it is that one of the last steps should be two things. One is to do a review, a debrief on how that whole journey on going towards that goal, how that went. What did they learn? What could have gone better? So what did they do well is number one. Number two is what could they have done better? And then number three is what are they going to do differently going forward? So they're just sort of a bit of a review and think about it, because you see, I think it's a great learning experience or a great learning opportunity for people to step back, think about things and learn from what went well, what didn't go well, and what can they do differently going forward. The other thing is, the second big piece here is to celebrate. And I actually make sure that they put that into their plan. But I also get them to do something else too. And I'm talking about for you as an individual. I would ask you to set the reward that you would get at the end of you actually celebrating. So what is it? Now, for a lot of people, it doesn't have to be huge. It could be going out to dinner with your partner. It could be going out to buy yourself a new shirt or a new piece of clothing or some new shoes, or going out and buying yourself a brand new sort of some technology items, something like that. Something that's not huge, but something that is important. Now, why? Because you see, from a psyche perspective, from our mindset, if we have got something we're aiming for, that's an attraction. But two, when we do take time out to celebrate our accomplishments, that's what we're telling ourselves, good on you. We are patting ourselves on the back, not because you need the pat on the back. It's not that. It's because you're telling yourself, well done on going through what you went through to get this thing done. Because the next time you go set the goal, subconsciously, you're thinking, why should I go and do all this stuff when I am not even recognizing myself for other things, right? So it's making sure that you're recognizing yourself well. And it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't have to be big, but it's really important that you do that. Set that reward up front, team. Think about what is it actually you're wanting to do. The other thing I would get you to do as well is that I would actually ask you to take a photo of you with your reward when you do that celebration. Because you see, when times get hard, and for all of us, we'll go through, there will be curveballs thrown at you. When you go through the good times and the hard times, doesn't matter which way it is, always go back and reflect and look at these photos to think about what you have set as a goal, what you have achieved, and then what you've done to celebrate it. Because this is where you're going to create memories. This is when you're going to create things for you that's really important. And so if you are going through those hard times, you can always refer back to these things to then help motivate you, inspire you to go and do some other things. In a nutshell, team, Celebrating your achievements is really important to you as an individual. Yes, it's important that you do it as well as a leader to other people in the sense that you give them an experience that they're going to remember. I'll guarantee you that if you make that experience positive and fantastic for them, they will remember it for years. That's right, they will remember it for years. And so make sure you do look after people really well. I'm also going to encourage you to do that setting of the goal, but also setting of the celebration piece and set yourself up the reward up front. And if there's anything I can do, team, to help you with this whole process, with you actually setting that goal, with you actually looking at what you might want to do going forward, then I encourage you to reach out to me. And you can do that through email, or you can do that through social media, whatever, or through my website, leadingchangepartners.com. Team, I want to once again thank the listeners so much for listening to the episodes as we've gone through episode 15 now onto others as well. I'm really looking forward to launching some other things, some programs, some coaching programs, some masterminds, some online courses, and some other brands or ideas and sort of pathways for people to look at as well. So it's very exciting times. We are creating t-shirts right now for the Leadership is Changing podcast, which is exciting to see. All right, team, it's been awesome being with you again today. And once again, don't forget to check out that Facebook group, Leadership is Changing, and join that community. See, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and the unfamiliar territory. It is time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Once again, look out for the episodes when they're downloaded. Have a listen, put a review, rating, share them with your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you have for me on the show, or if there's a question you want me to ask my guests as I interview them, or if you have a question for Denis on the Ask Denis episode, feel free to send me an email, denis@leadingchangepartners.com. All right, team, have an awesome weekend ahead, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.